Hello friends, what if I told you the reason certain zodiac signs can't handle relationships isn't fate, it's patterns. Patterns we can spot, laugh at, and outgrow. And if we knew the pattern, could we save the relationship before it falls apart? Today, we're unpacking why each sign struggles with love, and how every single one can make it work. Let's be clear, no one is doomed. We're not here to roast, we're here to understand. Ready to hear yours and your ex's? Let's go. Aries, I'm bored. Let's set the curtains on fire. Aries in love is like a sparkler. You light it, it burns brilliantly, but if you don't keep feeding it, the fire fizzles fast. Relationships, with their natural rhythms of workdays, errands, and Netflix nights, often feel too routine for Aries. This sign thrives on adrenaline, the thrill of the chase, and the excitement of something new. When the first few months of dizzying passion start to settle into daily life, Aries can mistake that normal slowdown for a lack of connection. They're not necessarily unhappy, they're simply unchallenged. And when they're unchallenged, their restless energy starts looking for drama, whether that's picking a fight over something small or impulsively texting an ex just to feel the rush. To Aries, stagnation is scarier than conflict, so they stir things up to remind themselves, and their partner, that the fire is still there. The courage that makes Aries magnetic is the same quality that sabotages them in love. They leap first and think later, demanding quick answers, instant change, or dramatic declarations. If their partner needs time to process, Aries often interprets that pause as rejection. Imagine someone standing in front of you tapping their foot while you try to explain your feelings. That's Aries energy. They don't mean to be dismissive, they're just wired for speed. This impatience can push people away before real intimacy has a chance to grow. Ironically, when Aries does leave, they often regret it almost instantly. They miss the laughter, the safety, the familiarity. But pride and impulsivity make it harder to circle back gracefully. So how do Aries fix this? Pacing. It's the hardest lesson for them to learn, but the most vital. Aries doesn't need to kill their fire, they need to direct it. Instead of creating chaos, they can create challenges that keep the relationship alive. A joint fitness streak, a cooking challenge, planning a trip together, or even setting quirky couple goals like, try 5 new restaurants this month. These goals give Aries the novelty they crave without sabotaging love. Another strategy is the 24-hour rule. Before making a big decision or starting an unnecessary fight, wait 1 full day. More often than not, what felt urgent in the heat of the moment loses its edge. Aries also needs to practice reframing calm as an upgrade rather than a threat. Stillness doesn't mean boredom, sometimes it means trust has finally settled in. That's not the end of passion, it's the foundation for a new kind of passion, one that lasts longer than a sparkler. Aries must constantly ask themselves, do I really want out, or do I just want energy? Because the truth is, love doesn't have to be a perpetual roller coaster. The ride can smooth out, and instead of fearing that, Aries can choose to see it as the moment when thrill evolves into depth. A healthy Aries in love doesn't set the curtains on fire, they build a home where passion and peace actually coexist. Taurus, if it ain't broke, I still won't change it. Taurus loves love. This is the sign that adores long Sunday mornings, shared routines, and the comfort of knowing someone's always there. Their loyalty is unmatched, and their steady presence feels like safety to their partners. But here's the catch. The same qualities that make Taurus dependable also make them resistant to growth. When they find something that feels good, they want to hold on to it forever. That means they'll keep the same restaurant date for years, cling to old patterns, or refuse to admit when something isn't working. They don't like change, not in their environment, not in their habits, and especially not in their emotional world. To Taurus, change feels like disruption, and disruption feels like danger. This resistance shows up in subtle ways. Taurus may avoid difficult conversations, convincing themselves that silence is better than rocking the boat. They might hold grudges for months but never voice their disappointment, expecting their partner to just know. Or they may resist new experiences, insisting that what they've always done is fine, even if it's not fulfilling anymore. Over time, This can make a relationship feel stale or even suffocating. Their partner may crave growth while Taurus clings to what's safe. And when confronted, Taurus often digs in even deeper, becoming stubborn just to avoid vulnerability. Vulnerability, after all, means admitting they don't have it all under control. But here's the thing, Taurus isn't trying to sabotage love. Their fear of change comes from a deep need for security. They equate consistency with safety, so shaking up the routine feels like risking the entire relationship. Yet ironically, refusing to adapt often creates the very cracks they're trying to avoid. The key for Taurus is learning that flexibility is not the enemy of stability, it's the very thing that keeps stability alive. What helps? Tiny, safe upgrades. Taurus doesn't need a total life makeover, they need manageable, incremental shifts. Think one new restaurant per month, not abandoning their favorite diner forever. One fresh conversation about feelings, not an all-night therapy marathon. One small habit of saying, "I miss you," or "thank you," even if they've been together for years. These little tweaks add vitality without threatening their sense of comfort. Another powerful tool for Taurus is the relationship check-in. Once a week, sit down and answer two simple questions: what's working, and what's not working? For Taurus, this creates a predictable structure for discussing issues, which makes vulnerability feel safer. The question Taurus must keep asking is my comfort keeping us connected or keeping us stuck? Because sometimes, what feels comfortable is actually blocking growth. Love isn't about preserving everything exactly as it is, it's about letting it evolve without losing its roots. For Taurus, the greatest love story is not the one that never changes, it's the one that adapts without breaking. When Taurus learns to balance stability with small risks, their relationships transform. They can still enjoy their routines, their cozy nights in, their loyalty, but those moments will feel even sweeter because they've chosen them, not clung to them out of fear. And when they finally realize that change doesn't destroy love, it deepens it, that's when Taurus truly shines as a partner. Gemini, I love you, and 12 other ideas. Being in a relationship with Gemini can feel like trying to hold onto a breeze, refreshing, exciting, constantly moving, but impossible to fully capture. Gemini's mind is wired for variety, stimulation, and conversation that jumps from philosophy to TikTok memes in the span of 30 seconds. They thrive on novelty, which is why their relationships often start with electric chemistry. They're witty, charming, endlessly curious, and they can make a first date feel like the opening chapter of a novel you never want to put down. But once the initial thrill fades and deeper emotional intimacy becomes necessary, Gemini can feel like they're suddenly stuck in slow motion. Depth, while valuable, sometimes feels too heavy for a sign that prefers to keep things light, playful, and constantly moving forward. When the mood shifts from fun to serious, Gemini's instinct is to pivot, crack a joke, change the subject, or distract with another idea. This doesn't mean they don't care, it means emotional intensity overwhelms them. They're like a radio picking up dozens of frequencies at once, and staying locked into one heavy channel feels suffocating. Add to this their deep-seated fear of missing out, and you get the classic Gemini dilemma. Even when they're happy, they sometimes wonder if something, or someone, else could be better. What if there's another connection out there, one that's even more exciting, more stimulating, more alive? It's not disloyalty, it's curiosity gone unchecked. Partners of Gemini often misinterpret this as flakiness or lack of commitment, but the truth is, Gemini doesn't want to leave. They want to keep love playful, surprising, and alive. They crave stories worth retelling. The struggle is that long-term relationships require grounding, routine, and repetition, the very things Gemini instinctively resists. When they don't have outlets for their restless energy, they may self-sabotage, pulling away or acting out in subtle ways, just to recreate a sense of novelty. So what fixes it? Anchors. Gemini needs both novelty and continuity. A partner who insists on routine alone will bore them, but a relationship that's all chaos will burn them out. The solution is to weave ongoing threads that give structure while allowing flexibility. For example, schedule themed date nights where each week has a different flavor. 1 week Italian cooking, the next week a trivia contest, the next a deep dive documentary with wine. This keeps the excitement alive without constantly jumping ship. Shared projects also work wonders. Listening to the same podcast, reading the same book chapter by chapter, or working on a creative project together. These anchors give Gemini's scattered energy a home, creating both novelty and depth at once. Communication is another crucial piece. Gemini tends to run when emotions feel too heavy, but instead of escaping, they can learn to name it to tame it. Saying, "I'm overwhelmed right now, but I'm not disinterested," allows them to be honest without shutting down. It buys them breathing room without making their partner feel abandoned. They should also ask themselves, am I avoiding discomfort or am I avoiding dishonesty? That question forces them to distinguish between harmless restlessness and genuine misalignment. The beauty of Gemini in love is their ability to reinvent. They can keep romance alive for decades if they learn to see depth not as the end of fun, but as the richest form of connection. A Gemini who embraces both their playful spirit and their capacity for honesty doesn't just keep the spark alive, they turn the relationship into an ongoing adventure. Instead of chasing the what ifs, they start building the what's next with the person who chose to stay. Cancer. I'll never admit I'm upset. Please guess. Cancer is the emotional heartbeat of the zodiac. They love with their whole being, often putting their partner's needs above their own, and they're capable of creating a home that feels like a sanctuary. When Cancer loves you, you feel it in the meals they cook, the check-in texts, the way they remember tiny details about your day. Their loyalty is unmatched, and their empathy makes them one of the most caring signs to be with. But beneath that nurturing exterior lies a stormy inner world they don't always know how to share. When Cancer feels unsafe, rejected, or misunderstood, they rarely come right out and say it. Instead, they retreat into their shell, waiting for their partner to notice. They expect love to be intuitive. If you know them well enough, shouldn't you just sense when something is wrong? The problem is, not everyone is wired to pick up on subtle emotional cues. When their partner doesn't catch on, Cancer spirals into silent storms. Long sulks, mood swings, or passive-aggressive comments that only confuse the situation further. And yet, even in those storms, they rarely leave. For Cancer, staying, even in confusion, feels safer than risking abandonment. This pattern can become exhausting. Their partner feels like they're constantly playing emotional charades, trying to guess the hidden meaning behind a look or a sigh. Cancer, meanwhile, feels unseen, which only deepens their frustration. They want closeness so badly, but their fear of vulnerability keeps them from asking directly for what they need. Ironically, this often pushes their partner further away, reinforcing the very insecurity they're trying to protect themselves from. What fixes it? Gentle clarity. Cancer doesn't need to abandon their sensitivity. They just need to translate it into words. One powerful tool is the feelings window. Instead of bottling up, Cancer can practice giving their partner a quick emotional snapshot. I'm at a 6/10 today, tired and touchy but okay. It's simple, but it opens the door to understanding without forcing a heavy conversation every time. They can also start small with direct requests, like, I need reassurance, or, could we plan more couple time this week? Over time, these small acts of clarity build a stronger bridge of trust. Cancer must also ask themselves, am I protecting my heart, or am I hiding my needs? There's a big difference between healthy self-preservation and unhealthy withdrawal. Protecting your heart means setting boundaries with love. Hiding your needs means expecting others to read your mind. Once Cancer learns this distinction, their relationships become dramatically easier. The irony is, Cancer's sensitivity is their greatest gift. When channeled openly, it creates bonds so deep and nurturing that both partners feel like they've found their safe harbor. But when left unspoken, it becomes a wall that keeps love out. A Cancer who learns to express their needs clearly doesn't lose their mystery. They simply allow their partner to step into their world instead of guessing at its shadows. And when that happens, love for Cancer is not just safe, it's luminous, steady, and exactly the kind of forever they've always longed for. Leo, I want grand love, and a standing ovation. Being in a relationship with a Leo is like stepping into the spotlight of the warmest, most dazzling theater. They radiate charisma, generosity, and devotion, and when they love you, you feel it as brightly as sunlight on your skin. Leo pours themselves into their relationships with a kind of grandeur, lavish dates, bold declarations, heartfelt gestures that make ordinary life feel extraordinary. They're the partner who surprises you with tickets to a show, who brags about you to their friends, who believes love should be celebrated, not hidden in the shadows. But beneath that golden glow lies a truth that's harder to see. Leos crave recognition almost as much as they crave love itself. For Leo, being ignored or overlooked cuts deeper than most people can imagine. They thrive on appreciation, on being seen and admired, and when that attention wavers, their pride roars. It's not that they're shallow, it's that acknowledgement is their emotional fuel. Without it, they feel invisible, and invisibility is unbearable for a sign born under the blazing sun. When they don't feel adored, they may stir up drama, sometimes unconsciously, just to bring the spotlight back. A small disagreement can escalate into a theatrical scene, not because they want conflict, but because conflict at least guarantees they're noticed. The hardest part for Leo, however, is admitting when they're hurt. Vulnerability doesn't come easily to them. Pride steps in first, covering wounds with bravado, defiance, or demands for more affection. They'll roar before they'll whisper, "I felt unloved." And yet, that whisper is exactly what would bring them closer to the intimacy they long for. Their partners may be dazzled by the grandeur but left uncertain about the quieter, softer needs Leo hides behind the performance. So what fixes it? Mutual applause. Leo doesn't want constant flattery, but they do need consistent appreciation. A gratitude ritual, naming 3 specific things you appreciate about each other each week, feeds their soul and reminds them love is a two-way performance. It turns validation from a desperate demand into a shared practice of recognition. Vulnerability reps are equally important. Instead of staging full Broadway productions of their hurt, Leo can practice smaller, truer admissions. "I felt small when you didn't introduce me to your friend," or "I felt invisible when you scrolled during dinner." These little confessions, though terrifying for their pride, open doors to real connection. Leo must also ask themselves, do I want to be right, or do I want to be close? The pursuit of victory in an argument may win them applause, but intimacy is the real standing ovation. The mic drop moment in love isn't proving you were correct, it's proving you were courageous enough to show your heart. When Leo learns that, their relationships shift from fiery performances that burn out to radiant connections that truly last. Because in the end, the greatest stage for Leo isn't the one filled with applause, it's the quiet intimacy of being fully seen and still deeply loved. Virgo, I can fix it. Also, you, mostly you. Virgo is the editor of the Zodiac, the sharp-eyed perfectionist who notices everything. The crooked picture frame, the typo in the text, the dish left soaking in the sink. In love, this quality can be a gift. They're attentive, detail-oriented, and always striving to make life smoother, cleaner, better. But their partner may not always feel the devotion behind the critique. Virgo doesn't criticize because they don't care, they criticize because they do. For them, love is improvement. If they point out what could be better, it's because they want to invest in making the relationship stronger. But here's the trap. What feels like help to Virgo can feel like judgment to their partner. Perfectionism is Virgo's shield against chaos. They control their environment and relationships because unpredictability terrifies them. If everything is neat, efficient, and polished, then maybe, just maybe, they'll be safe from disappointment. But love, by its very nature, is messy. It doesn't run on rules or neat checklists. And this is where Virgo often struggles. Instead of surrendering to imperfection, they double down on trying to fix everything. That includes their partner. Suddenly, a sweet suggestion, "You'd look great in this color," becomes a barrage of constant improvements. "You should eat better, sleep earlier, fold this differently, phrase that more carefully." The relationship shifts from romance to project, and no one likes to feel like a project. The irony is that Virgo's standards are rooted in love. They truly believe they're helping. But when their perfectionism overshadows their tenderness, they create tension instead of trust. Their partner starts to feel like they'll never be enough, and Virgo, frustrated that their efforts aren't appreciated, withdraws into quiet disappointment. The distance grows, not because Virgo doesn't care, but because they care too much about control. What fixes it? Progress over perfection. Virgo needs to recognize that good enough in love is often more than enough. The 80-20th rule is a powerful tool here. If 80% of the relationship feels healthy, safe, and connected, the other 20% doesn't need to be constantly nitpicked. Relationships aren't essays to be graded, they're living, breathing dynamics. Practicing the 5-to-1 ratio of praise to feedback also helps. For every one critique, offer 5 genuine compliments. This ensures that their love shines louder than their corrections. Another key practice is curious before corrective. Before offering a solution, Virgo can pause and ask, "What do you need right now?" Sometimes their partner doesn't need fixing, they just need listening. This simple shift turns Virgo from critic to confidant. It softens their presence and allows them to use their incredible discernment in service of empathy instead of control. Virgo should continually ask themselves, is my standard building trust or building tension? If the answer is tension, it's time to lower the bar, not because love deserves less, but because love thrives when humans are allowed to be human. When Virgo embraces this, their relationships transform. Instead of being the relentless editor, they become the gentle guide, the supportive partner who helps polish without erasing. Precision is gorgeous, but so is kindness. Virgo's greatest strength in love isn't their eye for flaws, it's their capacity to nurture growth without demanding perfection. When they allow space for imperfection, they discover a deeper, more authentic intimacy. Because in the end, love isn't about fixing someone until they're flawless. It's about choosing someone, flaws and all, and saying, "This is perfect enough." Libra. I don't want to fight. Also, I can't decide. Libra is the diplomat of the zodiac, the one who thrives on balance, connection, and making every room they enter feel more harmonious. In relationships, they bring sweetness, charm, and a genuine desire to create peace. Being with Libra can feel like stepping into a gentle oasis. They'll listen, they'll empathize, they'll smooth rough edges with kindness. They adore partnership and often feel incomplete without it, because sharing life feels more meaningful than going solo. But here's where it gets complicated. Libra's desire for harmony can easily morph into avoidance. Instead of addressing problems head-on, they dodge. Instead of making firm decisions, they stall. And instead of speaking their truth, they smile, nod, and keep the peace, until the bottled-up tension eventually explodes. Libra struggles because they equate conflict with danger. To them, arguing feels like breaking the bond they worked so hard to create. They'd rather sacrifice their own preferences, or delay making any choice at all, than risk upsetting their partner. This sounds selfless, but in practice, it leads to frustration. Their partner may feel like Libra is withholding honesty, or worse, that Libra is indecisive to the point of disengagement. On the surface, everything looks calm. Beneath the surface, resentment brews. Decision-making is another stumbling block. Libra is famous for weighing every option until the opportunity passes. What restaurant to go to, what vacation to take, whether to move in together. They hesitate, analyze, and consult 5 friends before coming to a conclusion. While their goal is fairness, the effect is stagnation. Relationships require momentum, and when Libra avoids choosing, things stall. What begins as, "let's not rush," can turn into months, or years, of drifting. Partners may interpret this as lack of commitment, when in reality Libra is just terrified of making the wrong call. So how does Libra fix it? Boundaried charm. Their natural gift for connection doesn't need to disappear, but it does need structure. One powerful strategy is setting decision deadlines. We'll decide by Friday. This keeps them from overthinking and teaches them that movement, even imperfect movement, is better than paralysis. In conflict, Libra can use simple scripts to ease their anxiety. When X happens, I feel why I need Z. It frames disagreement not as a fight, but as collaboration. Suddenly, conflict becomes a design session instead of a courtroom battle. Libra must also ask themselves, am I choosing comfort now and chaos later? Because every avoided conversation, every postponed choice, eventually erupts. True harmony doesn't come from silence, it comes from honest dialogue. Once Libra learns this, their relationships blossom. Their natural charm, combined with boundaries and truth-telling, makes them extraordinary partners who not only bring peace but also build trust. The irony is that Libra's fear of conflict is the very thing that creates conflict in the long run. But when they embrace honesty, even when it risks short-term discomfort, they create the kind of balance they've always dreamed of, harmony that's real, not fragile. Love with Libra becomes a duet, not a solo performance where one person carries the weight of peacekeeping. And that's when Libra shines, not just as the peacemaker, but as the partner who proves that balance is only meaningful when both sides are heard. Scorpio, prove I can trust you, forever. Scorpio is intensity personified. When they love with every cell in their body. They don't want surface-level affection or casual connections, they want depth, soul-bearing truth, and passion that feels like destiny. Being loved by Scorpio can feel like being chosen by fate itself. They'll protect you, fight for you, and stand by you with unshakable devotion. But this all-or-nothing approach comes with shadows. Scorpio's greatest desire, deep trust, is also their greatest fear. And that fear can twist love into something that feels less like intimacy and more like interrogation. Trust issues run deep for Scorpio. They want to know every secret, every detail, every motive, not because they're nosy, but because uncertainty terrifies them. Their intensity can sometimes morph into control, checking, testing, probing. A missed call becomes a silent accusation. A vague answer becomes a red flag. Their incredible curiosity, when fueled by fear, can feel like surveillance. Instead of asking directly for reassurance, Scorpio may test their partner, pulling away to see if the other chases, or provoking jealousy just to feel wanted. These tests, while unintentional, can erode the very trust they crave. At their core, Scorpio doesn't want power, they want security. But their methods of achieving it can backfire. When they hold back emotionally, waiting for proof that it's safe to open up, their partner may feel shut out. When they interrogate or demand loyalty without showing vulnerability in return, their partner may feel mistrusted. And when Scorpio equates drama with depth, the relationship becomes exhausting instead of exhilarating. So how do they fix it? Transparent rituals. Scorpio thrives when there are clear, agreed-upon practices that reduce uncertainty without suffocating love. Sharing calendars, intentions, or even weekly check-ins can soothe their fear, not as a policing mechanism, but as a gesture of trust. Another powerful shift is learning to ask, don't test. Instead of creating elaborate scenarios to gauge loyalty, Scorpio can directly request reassurance. I need to hear that you're with me, or, could you text me when you get there? These simple asks prevent the spiral of suspicion. The trust ledger is another tool, actively naming when trust is kept versus when it's broken. This makes progress visible and prevents Scorpio from clinging only to betrayals while ignoring evidence of loyalty. And perhaps most importantly, Scorpio must ask, am I protecting my love or punishing my fear? Because when fear runs the show, it creates the very cracks they dread. When Scorpio learns that depth doesn't require drama, everything changes. True intimacy isn't tested through jealousy or control. It's proven in daily acts of openness, honesty, and shared vulnerability. A secure Scorpio in love is magnetic, fiercely loyal, endlessly passionate, and capable of creating bonds so profound they feel unbreakable. But they only reach that point when they stop demanding constant proof and start giving the trust they want to receive. The truth is, Scorpio's love is already powerful enough without games. They don't need to stage tests or demand eternal vows to know it's real. What makes their love deepest isn't the intensity of their suspicion, it's the courage to believe in someone fully, scars and all. When Scorpio embraces that courage, they don't just love, they transform love into something soul-deep and timeless. Sagittarius, commitment? I have a flight. Sagittarius is the adventurer, the free spirit, the wildfire that refuses to burn in just one place. Their energy is magnetic, optimistic, curious, hungry for experience, and endlessly in love with possibility. When you meet a Sagittarius, it feels like you've been handed a boarding pass to adventure itself. They'll whisk you into spontaneous road trips, deep late-night conversations about philosophy, wild laughter over something absurd, and promises that life will never be boring with them around. And for the most part, they deliver. But when the topic shifts from the horizon to home, from what's next to what's here, Sagittarius begins to twitch. Commitment, to them, can feel like a locked cage, even when it's with someone they deeply love. It's not that Sagittarius doesn't want love. They want it fiercely, but they want love that feels expansive, not restrictive. The thought of being boxed in, of being told, "this is all there is," terrifies them. It's not about rejecting the partner, it's about rejecting the possibility of routine becoming a prison. To Sagittarius, routine is dangerous because it drains their spark. They need freshness, exploration, and freedom the way plants need sunlight. Without it, their vibrant energy dims. And when that happens, they bolt. Sometimes it's literal, booking a trip, disappearing into a new hobby, burying themselves in friends and distractions. Sometimes it's emotional, pulling back, detaching, creating distance where closeness once was. Their brutal honesty is both their charm and their challenge. Sagittarius tells the truth, often without a parachute. They'll say what others only dare to think, blurting out feelings or doubts without filtering. On one hand, this makes them refreshingly authentic. On the other, it can sting. Words meant as clarity can land as daggers, because Sagittarius forgets that truth without tact can break trust. Combine that with their restlessness, and their partners may feel like they're always one step away from being left behind. So what fixes it? Freedom inside commitment. Sagittarius thrives in relationships that give them both roots and wings. They don't want to lose their independence, they want to share it. One powerful strategy is building an adventure calendar, together. Trips, classes, new experiences, micro quests that keep life big. Instead of fearing that commitment means routine, they'll see that commitment can actually be the ultimate adventure, because now they have a co-pilot. At the same time, grounding rituals are non-negotiable. A weekly dinner, a nightly check-in, or a shared morning coffee. These touchpoints remind Sagittarius that stability doesn't mean stagnation. Communication is another key. Instead of dropping truth bombs with no warning, Sagittarius can practice real-time honesty with tact. For example, "I'm feeling restless, but it's not about you, it's about me needing adventure." This shifts their words from hurtful to helpful, from destructive to constructive. And perhaps most importantly, Sagittarius needs to ask themselves, am I running from my partner, or from the version of me that doesn't explore? Often, they're not fleeing love at all, they're fleeing the fear of losing themselves. When Sagittarius learns that the right relationship doesn't clip their wings but expands their map, everything changes. Love becomes not a cage but a horizon they can keep chasing, forever, with someone by their side. A Sagittarius who feels both free and cherished is unstoppable. Their laughter infectious, their loyalty surprisingly deep, and their passion for life contagious. Because in the end, commitment isn't the enemy of Sagittarius, it's the passport to adventures even bigger than the ones they could have had alone. Capricorn, I'll love you after this meeting. And the next one. Capricorn is the architect of the Zodiac, the builder, the planner, the strategist. They approach life with discipline and vision, always climbing, always striving, always building the next level of security. In relationships, this can make them incredibly reliable partners. They're steady, responsible, and devoted to providing stability. If Capricorn says they'll be there, they will. If they commit, they mean it. But here's the challenge. Love doesn't always fit neatly into their planner. Capricorn, driven by goals and responsibility, often places work and ambition above intimacy. Not because they don't care, but because work feels safe. Work is measurable, controllable, and predictable. Feelings, on the other hand, are messy, unpredictable, and hard to schedule. And so love often gets pushed into the later folder, after the meeting, after the promotion, after the milestone that never stops moving. Capricorn's instinct for control is both their strength and their Achilles heel. They protect themselves from chaos by mastering their world, but in relationships, that control can come across as emotional distance. Partners may feel like they're always waiting for Capricorn to have time, waiting for Capricorn to open up, waiting for Capricorn to choose them over the endless climb. And waiting too long can feel like rejection. Capricorn may not realize it, but their partner doesn't want to be a task slotted between deadlines. They want to feel prioritized in real time. The irony is that Capricorn often believes they're showing love by working so hard. They think, I'm building a security, a future, a stable life. And they are, but what their partner may want isn't another long-term investment. It's attention today, affection tonight, laughter this weekend. Capricorn's well-meaning dedication can backfire, creating the exact emotional void they're working so hard to avoid. So what fixes it? Calendar the heart. For Capricorn, love needs to be scheduled with the same seriousness as a meeting. Weekly debriefs where both partners talk about how they're feeling. Monthly dates that aren't negotiable. Quarterly getaways that reset the bond. By literally putting love on the calendar, Capricorn signals that intimacy is just as important as work. This structure not only reassures their partner, but it also plays to Capricorn's strength, consistency. Delegation is another powerful tool. Capricorn tends to take on too much, believing no one can do it as well as they can. But perfection isn't productivity, and overwork isn't love. By delegating and letting go of control, they create space for connection. And they must ask themselves regularly, if my relationship were a project, would I fund it? The answer forces them to evaluate whether they're investing energy into love, or neglecting it in favor of everything else. When Capricorn learns that vulnerability isn't weakness but intimacy, they transform. Their discipline, once applied to love, creates bonds that are unshakable. Their loyalty, once expressed in daily presence instead of just long-term goals, makes their partner feel truly cherished. The very qualities that make Capricorn successful in work, dedication, persistence, responsibility, become the same qualities that make them extraordinary partners. Because at the end of the day, love doesn't need to wait until after the meeting. The real success is learning that the heart, just like any empire worth building, requires steady investment now, not someday. When Capricorn understands this, they stop postponing love and start living it. And in that moment, their relationships don't just survive, they thrive, stronger than any skyscraper they could ever build. Aquarius, I have feelings. I just prefer them in theory. Aquarius is the visionary, the rebel, the one who always seems 2 steps ahead of everyone else. They're brilliant at seeing the big picture, solving problems that others can't, and bringing fresh ideas into stale situations. Their partners often feel like they're dating someone extraordinary, part best friend, part genius, part humanitarian. But here's the paradox. While Aquarius can talk about complex theories, world issues, or the future of technology for hours, when it comes to their own emotions, they often freeze. They intellectualize instead of feeling. They debate instead of disclosing. Their partner may spill their heart, and Aquarius responds with an analysis that sounds more like a TED Talk than a love confession. It's not that they don't care, it's that vulnerability feels terrifying. Aquarius values independence so deeply that closeness can sometimes feel like suffocation. They need space like oxygen. To them, being able to retreat, think, and recharge alone isn't rejection, it's survival. But partners who don't understand this can feel abandoned, like they're dating someone who's physically present but emotionally unreachable. Imagine texting someone your fears and getting back a detached, that's interesting. Have you considered why you feel that way? It's caring, but it feels clinical. The irony is that Aquarius does have deep feelings. They just prefer to hold them in theory, where they're neat, instead of in practice, where they're messy. They're scared that showing emotions will make them lose their cool, their objectivity, or their independence. So they keep their hearts locked away, believing they're protecting themselves, when really, they're building walls their partner can't climb. What fixes it? Warm data. Aquarius lives in the realm of ideas, so they need systems that translate emotions into something they can grasp without drowning in them. A daily weather report works wonders. One sentence to describe their inner state: sunny, foggy, thunder-ish. It gives their partner access without demanding an emotional flood. Scheduling solitude is also key. When alone time is planned, their partner doesn't feel pushed away, it feels like part of the rhythm of the relationship. Instead of grand speeches, Aquarius can lean into micro moments. A hand squeeze, a shared joke, a lingering look that says, "I see you, I'm here." These gestures speak louder than intellectual essays and help ground their love in reality. And they must ask themselves regularly, am I staying objective to stay safe? Because emotional detachment often isn't about being above feelings, it's about fearing them. When Aquarius embraces vulnerability, they discover that connection doesn't limit their independence, it deepens it. The right relationship doesn't take away their freedom, it gives them someone who celebrates it while still anchoring them in love. An emotionally open Aquarius is magnetic. Their originality shines, their loyalty surprises, and their love feels like a rare combination of freedom and intimacy. In the end, their greatest breakthrough isn't about revolutionizing the world, it's about daring to be fully present in their own heart. Pisces, I fell in love with your potential. And a playlist. Pisces is the dreamer, the empath, the poet of the zodiac. Their heart is an ocean, vast, deep, and endlessly giving. They see beauty everywhere, from a piece of music to the way sunlight hits your hair. Falling in love with Pisces feels like stepping into a fairy tale. They're romantic, imaginative, and capable of seeing not only who you are but who you could be. That's where the magic begins, and where the trouble starts. Because Pisces doesn't just fall in love with the person in front of them. They fall in love with potential, with what could happen, with the dream version of the relationship. And sometimes, reality can't keep up. Pisces struggles because they blur boundaries, between themselves and others, between reality and fantasy, between what they feel and what they imagine. They soak up their partner's moods like sponges, often sacrificing their own needs in the process. Over time, this selflessness turns into silent resentment. Instead of voicing frustration, Pisces might retreat into their safe havens: art, sleep, daydreams, or even silence. They escape instead of confronting. And while their partner may still receive endless affection, underneath, Pisces may be quietly drowning. This escapism isn't laziness, it's self-preservation. When reality feels too harsh, Pisces retreats to where it's softer. But in relationships, that means problems go unspoken. Bills, boundaries, responsibilities, they all get pushed aside for comfort. Love starts to feel like a beautiful fog, dreamy, yes, but hard to live inside. And when their partner realizes they're more in love with a fantasy than a functioning relationship, cracks form. What fixes it? Reality with compassion. Pisces thrives when the dream is balanced with structure. Weekly dream versus plan check-ins can be transformative. What are we feeling? What are we actually going to do about it? This anchors their romantic vision in action. Clear limits on time, money, and energy prevent the relationship from slipping into chaos. And most importantly, Pisces must learn to ask for specific care. Not vague hints or unspoken hopes, but clear requests. Could you call when you're running late? Or, I need extra support this week. Pisces also benefits from asking, am I choosing fantasy because reality needs a conversation? Often, they're not avoiding their partner, they're avoiding a hard truth. But once spoken, that truth creates the very safety they crave. Because dreams grow best in good soil, and good soil is reality, nurtured with care. When Pisces balances their heart's vast imagination with grounded choices, they become extraordinary partners. Their empathy turns from self-sacrifice into shared healing. Their creativity turns from escape into connection. And their love, once fragile, becomes resilient, able to weather storms instead of dissolving into them. A secure Pisces doesn't stop dreaming. They just learn that the most beautiful love story isn't the one they imagine, it's the one they build, day by day, with someone who meets them both in the clouds and on the ground. And when that happens, Pisces doesn't just love you, they love you into becoming more fully yourself. So, do certain signs can't handle relationships? Not exactly. Each sign has a default setting that, under stress, becomes a glitch. Awareness is the patch, habits are the update, and love, real, daily, unglamorous love, is the operating system. Think of it like this. No zodiac sign is doomed, no star-born personality is incapable of love. What happens is that under pressure, each sign flips back to its factory setting, the instinctual reaction it leans on when life feels overwhelming. For Aries, that might be impatience. For Taurus, resistance to change. For Gemini, distraction. For Cancer, withdrawal. For Leo, pride. For Virgo, perfectionism. For Libra, avoidance. For Scorpio, control. For Sagittarius, escape. For Capricorn, overworking. For Aquarius, detachment. For Pisces, fantasy. These are not fatal flaws, they're simply glitches in the system. And like any glitch, they can be debugged. The awareness of, this is my default, is already the first step toward change. You can't fix what you can't see. Once you notice the pattern, you stop being its prisoner. When we call love an operating system, we mean that it's not a one-time download, it's ongoing, constantly updated. Every day in a relationship is a chance to run a patch, a new habit, a softer reaction, a braver word. It doesn't require grand gestures or cosmic revelations. It's built in the small, ordinary choices. Saying the apology instead of just thinking it. Asking the uncomfortable question instead of pretending you don't care. Pausing before running away, snapping, or shutting down. The update doesn't have to be dramatic, it just has to be consistent. If you heard yourself today, that's not an indictment. It's an invitation. What's the one tiny change you can try this week? The challenge, the check-in, the apology said out loud? Maybe you're a Virgo learning to leave the dish in the sink without exploding. Maybe you're a Sagittarius choosing to plan one date night before booking your next solo trip. Maybe you're a Cancer trying to actually say, I'm hurt, instead of hoping your partner guesses. Or maybe you're a Leo practicing gratitude instead of demanding applause. The point isn't to overhaul your entire personality, it's to take one micro step toward balance. Because the truth is, love doesn't collapse from one big fight, it erodes from all the little unchecked patterns. The fix, therefore, is equally small and deliberate. So here's the challenge. Name your glitch, pick your patch, and test the update this week. Not for a lifetime, not for a year, just for 1 week. Notice how it shifts your energy, how it changes the dance between you and your partner, and how much lighter it feels to step out of your default autopilot. That's the power of tiny changes, they add up faster than you think. If this hit home, drop your sign in the comments and the habit you're breaking next. Smash like if you want more astrology with receipts, subscribe for the next deep dive, and check the description for related videos and my socials. See you in the next one, and yes, we're bringing charts and solutions. Your story matters. Your love life isn't determined by your zodiac, it's shaped by your choices. And if you're here, listening, reflecting, and ready to try again, then you're already proving that every sign can handle love, just in their own evolving way.